In this video, I'm going to show you how to conduct thematic analysis using AtlasTI. This is a step-by-step video. That means that we are going to follow the 6 steps proposed by Braun and Clarke to conduct thematic analysis so that we are able to go from raw transcripts such as this to a complete findings report like this. The steps that we are going to be following to conduct thematic analysis were proposed by Braun and Clarke in their 2022 book titled Thematic Analysis, a Practical Guide. These steps include 1. Familiarizing with the data, 2. Generating initial codes, 3. Generating themes, 4. Reviewing themes, 5. Defining and naming themes, and 6. Producing the report. My name is Bernard Mbugo. I like to refer to myself simply as an academic. In the past 3 years, I've helped more than 250 PhD students analyze qualitative data and finally complete their thesis or dissertations. In the course of helping such a large number of students, I've gained invaluable experience in the best practices that you can use to perform qualitative analysis of your interviews and be able to retrieve quality findings. Now, it's important to follow a framework when conducting thematic analysis because a framework ensures that we never get overwhelmed when analyzing qualitative data, which can be tedious. For example, when using the Braun and Clarke approach to conduct thematic analysis, we will become aware of every stage that we need to take to move from raw data to findings. So for the purposes of this video, the example study that I'm going to use is student views on teaching strategies used in a college. We are going to analyze at least 2 transcripts from this study and see how we can move from getting codes all the way to getting themes in AtlasTI.
Let me interrupt this video for a minute and pose this question to you. Are you overwhelmed by qualitative data analysis? I've got you covered with 2 specialized services tailored just for you. But before I tell you of my services, let me first begin by informing you that I have an average 5-star rating out of the previous 51 clients that I've worked with both in the done for you and the consulting service. Now, here are the 2 services I provide to help you in analyzing your qualitative data with AtlasTI. 1. The done for you qualitative data analysis service. In this service, I handle the heavy lifting so you can focus on the bigger picture. My service includes 1. Meticulous manual coding, where I go through every word and carefully analyze it for meaningful insights. Theme development, where I identify the patterns that matter the most. Data visualization, where I provide stunning visuals that tell your data story. Findings report, where I provide ready-to-use content for chapter 4 of your thesis or dissertation. And a walkthrough video recording, which is a step-by-step explanation of how I analyze your data using AtlasTI. The second service is the one-on-one consulting for AtlasTI. In this service, I hop on a video call with you via Zoom, Microsoft Teams, or Google Meet, and in just a few hours, I will help you become an AtlasTI Pro. Whether you are a beginner looking to refine your qualitative data analysis skills, I'm here to guide you every step of the way. Don't wait, contact me today. My details are in the description and in the pinned comment. Now, the first step of the Braun and Clarke is to familiarize with the transcripts. These are transcripts related to student views on the teaching strategies used in a college. We are going to go through the transcripts and read them like a story. Once we read the transcripts, we are going to get the nuance of what's being provided by the respondents and how we can code that. So basically, we should go to this transcript. This is number 1. We have a second transcript, number 2, number 3. Once we are done with that, we go and open AtlasTI. Remember, we are doing this analysis with AtlasTI. I have my AtlasTI 25. The version doesn't matter that much. The foundation of analysis is what matters. How do we analyze? Why do we analyze? Well, ideally, we are using the interpretivist philosophy. Interpretivist philosophy is about ensuring that we consider the different perspectives of our participants. Let's click on Start AtlasTI. I go to New Project. The project name is Sample Project 3. Then we create the project in AtlasTI. This is Sample Project 3. So, how does this sample project work? This sample project is where we are going to import our documents. We're going to import our documents in the document section and our codes in the codes section. So, documents in the document section, codes in the codes section. Looking at AtlasTI, there are main menus that you should look at. There is this menu that has file home, search code, analyze, import, export, tools, and help. And there is another menu to the left. Remember, we are conducting thematic analysis following the Braun and Clarke 6 steps. That means we are going to use only a few sections of this software. We are going to use the document section and the codes section. Simply, we're going to use these two sections only. So how does this work? For the document section, we are going to click on the documents, drag and drop the documents in the document section, or import them through the import button, which is on the top menu. I have 5 documents, as you can see. I think I imported some documents twice. Student 1, 2, 3. 2 and 3 twice. Let me just delete that. So we have student 1, 2, 3. The 0 are the number of codes that we'll get from these documents. Once we import the documents, remember the first step of the Braun and Clarke is to familiarize with the data. Once we familiarize with the data and import the documents into AtlasTI, we go to the second step, which is generating initial codes. Before we begin coding, I like to show a sample of what I'm referring to as a code. Let's read this short paragraph together, then see examples of code. Then I will define what's a code, and then we're going to conduct some coding in AtlasTI. He cares about me. He has never told me, but he does. He's always been there for me, even when my parents were not. He's one of the few things that I hold as a constant in my life. So it's nice. I really feel comfortable around him. Let's just read the first sentence. He cares about me. He has never told me, but he does. That is interpreted as sense of self-worth. Then we have number 2. He's always been there for me, even when my parents were not. He's one of the few things that I hold as a constant in my life. So it's nice. So that's stability. Then number 3, I really feel comfortable around him. That's comfortable. So he cares about me, he has never told me, but he does. I interpret that as sense of self-worth. He's always been there for me, even when my parents were not. He's one of the few things that I hold as a constant in my life. So that is coded as stability. The third line, I really feel comfortable around him. The code is comfortable. Basically, that's the code. So with this sample in mind, let me define a code for you. A code is a label or an interpretive statement to any information that's important to our research question. And before we begin coding the 3 transcripts, another thing we need to do is, if you go to my transcripts and you look at student number 1, I have come up with a way of managing codes so that I know where the questions that these codes came from, so that when we are combining codes to form themes, it becomes a bit easier for us. What do I mean? For example, question 1, I've color coded it as red. Question 2, I've color coded it as light green. Question 3, I've color coded it as light blue or blue. Question 4, dark blue. And question 5, purple. Question 6, kind of gold. That's how I've color coded it, all these things. These color codes are what we are going to use to mark these codes when we code this data. So let's go and do that. Let's double click on a transcript to open it inside AtlasTI, and let's get codes. All our codes are going to go to the codes section in AtlasTI. So let's do some coding together. Let me read this and let's do some coding. Let me just push this up this side. Yeah. Center it in case. So I like to read the whole paragraph before I begin coding. And as usual, I'm going to do 2 transcripts. Then we can go and create some themes. Then we can export a code book. And then we can see how this data should be reported. So what is your experience as a student at the institution? This person says, the college is nice. They make a new paint job in the beginning of the year. Yes. They redo the roof also because it was bad here. In winter, the classroom leaks. But the toilet is not nice. Toilet is always dirty, yes. Also, classrooms are not clean all the time. But I think it's students, they eat in class and they leave the paper there on the desk or on the floor. Why at this institution must I buy textbooks? At other institutions, they get textbooks for free. They get all the drawing equipment and calculator. Here I must pay. Management is a problem as they don't communicate. The timetable is very confusing. When I came here in N4, I didn't know where I needed to be in class. Nobody explains it to me. I wasn't sure if I was in group A or B. I just follow the class. Sometimes I sit here the whole day and there is no class. Let's do some codes here. So what's your experience as a student at the institution? The college is nice. They make a new paint job in the beginning of the year, yes. They do the roof also because it was bad here in winter. The classrooms leak. But the toilet is not nice. I would like to highlight here that This person is talking about maintaining facilities. So in the college, they maintain facilities. I want to right click, highlight, right click, apply codes. I want to voice type here. Press the Windows button on my Windows computer, then the H button to voice type. Repairing facilities. Repairing facilities is one of the codes. So repairs happens in the school. But the toilet is not nice. Toilet is always dirty, yes. Also, classrooms are not clean all the time. But I think students, they eat in the class and they leave the paper there on the desk on the floor. But the toilet is not nice. Toilet is always dirty, yes. We also see, although they repair facilities, they have untidy washrooms and classrooms. I want to highlight that sentence and code this as untidy classrooms and toilets. Remember, right click, go to change color. Remember, I said all the codes that will come from question 1 should be marked as red, and even the second code. So color set, change color, red. So why are these institutions must I buy textbooks? At other institutions, they get textbooks for free. They get all the drawing equipment and calculator. Here I must pay. Another issue is inadequate textbooks. Okay, inadequate textbooks. Mark that as red. Then management is a problem as they don't communicate. The timetable is very confusing. When I came here in N4, I didn't know where I needed to be in class. Nobody explained it to me. I wasn't sure if I was in group A or B. I just follow the class. Sometimes I sit here the whole day and there is no class. Another experience here this person is saying is poor communication from the management. So I highlight all that statement and I code this as right click, create code, poor communication from the management. Then I click the plus sign to add that code. Remember, that code should be color, change color, color red. Let's go to the second question to see how these codes would differ from the second set. So question 2, what's your current experience as a student with teaching strategies used in the classroom? So I read the whole thing first. Of course, the lecturers don't explain very nicely. Sometimes I leave class not knowing what's going on. I feel sometimes the lecturers are not just understanding at all when I ask them to explain again. Lecturers don't follow the right timetable. Sometimes I'm not sure it has changed, but the lecturers say that they had class beforehand or after the period that we are supposed to have class. Most of the times I think lecturers arrive late for class, then change the timetable. After a lesson, it's difficult to know whether we are understanding the work or not, as it seems lecturers assume that we understand. Lecturers fail to give relevant feedback after we come with the homework that was given. Let's read this together and see. What's your current experience as a student in teaching strategies? The lecturers don't explain very nicely. Sometimes I leave class not knowing what's going on. I feel sometimes lecturers are just not understanding at all when I ask them to explain again. This person is saying they have experienced insufficient explanations from the lecturers. So I right click, highlight, right click, click on apply codes, experienced insufficient explanations from the lecturer. Right click, change color. That code will be marked as light green. Then let's keep going. Lecturers don't follow the right timetable. Sometimes I'm not sure it has changed, but lecturers say that they had class beforehand or after the period that we are supposed to have class. Most of the time, I think lecturers arrive late for class, then change the timetable. So there is an issue of lack of punctuality among the lecturers. I highlight that. I go to apply codes, then type here lack of punctuality among the lecturers. So I right click, I go to change color. I go to light green. Then after a lesson, it's difficult to know whether we are understanding the work or not, as it seems lecturers assume that we understand. Lecturers fail to give relevant feedback after we come with homework that was given. So poor feedback from lecturers. Highlight this and code this as poor feedback from lecturers. So what do we see here? We see that what I'm doing is trying to code based on the research questions and objectives. So I'm coding things that I believe are important. Let's keep the second transcript and let's just focus on the third one, and let's do some coding as we were doing before. Remember, the color code for question 1 is red. All the codes that come from question 1 will be red. What's your experience as a student at the institution? Sir, with the COVID-19 pandemic, I feel that the college does not have enough ventilation in the classroom. At the classroom in room number 61, all the windows cannot open. They are all riveted, closed. Also, I have a big problem with the way the administration deals with students. I know students are scared to go and inquire about anything at the admin. So lecturers do not respect other lecturers' time slots. They tend to teach over the time allocated. Not all students do all 4 subjects, so then we get to class. Time is wasted, waiting for the rest of the class to come before the lecture can start. So this person is saying, the first sentence, I feel that the college does not have enough ventilation. Lack of enough ventilation in the classes. Put that as light green. Also, I have a big problem with the way the administration deals with the student. I know students are scared to go to inquire about anything at the admin. This person is saying there are challenges dealing with the admin. So, lack of working relationship between admin and students. That's another code I've highlighted, that there seems to be a lack of a working relationship between admin and students. Then, some lecturers do not respect other lecturers' time slots. They tend to teach over the time allocated. Not all students do all 4 subjects. So when we get to class, time is wasted waiting for the rest of the class to come before the lecture can start. So this, if you remember, there is a code I had, lack of punctuality among the lecturers. So I can highlight this statement and include it in the code. I can go to apply codes. You remember the codes of no punctuality, this code. I want to apply this code here and put a plus sign. If you double click, you can see this code now has 2 quotes, that the lecturers are not punctual, which affects the delivery of classes and the teaching experience. So what's your current experience as a student with teaching strategies used in the classroom? I like Mr. X. He has a nice way of teaching. He is very considerate. He takes us to workshops and shows us what the materials look like. But I think some students take advantage of his goodness. He's always asking if you are okay, and if there is anything that we need to talk to him about, we should speak to him. I think there are lecturers that are struggling financially. They are just teaching to put food on the table. This might lead to lecturers giving unprepared lessons as they come to class, not knowing where to start. Lecturers not allow the student to grasp what has been taught. I think lecturers must allow time during class for a class discussion, as this may allow lecturers to see if we understand what was being taught. I think we as a student can also learn of each other. What's your current experience as a student with the teaching strategies used in the classroom? So I think Mr. X has a nice way of teaching. He is very considerate. He takes us to workshops, shows us how materials look like, but I think some students take advantage of his goodness. He always asks if you are okay with anything you need to talk about, we should speak to him. Generally, this person has a practical approaches in classrooms. In this code, I'm just trying to say that this interviewee highlights that this lecturer uses practical approaches. I can go to change color, then red. Basically, that's how we get codes. Now, how do we combine these codes? How do we move to the next step in Braun and Clarke, which is generating themes? We simply look for a pattern of shared meaning across the codes, and that's what I'm going to do. If you look at the first transcript, the red codes, they relate to the students' experiences in this institution. So they are inadequate textbooks, poor communication, practical approaches. Actually, that one should be change color. That one should be light green. Repairing facilities, untidy classrooms. When you look at these codes, we can see they are talking about something we call status of facilities in the institution. I can go to the code groups. New group, I type this theme. I voice type status of facilities at the institution. So status of facilities at the institution. I can also right click and add new memo. It's a description of this and say that I'm going to voice type and say that this theme relates to the views of the interviewees on the status of facilities at the institution or at the learning institution. If you double click here, you will see that's the kind of description I have for that. Now, this is not just a regular code. I can right click and go and rename it. I can call this theme 1. I'm trying to form preliminary themes. For this theme, I can click on rename. And by the way, we can create another group here and call this group preliminary themes. And then we have final themes later, because these are just preliminary. So this is the first theme. Then I assign some codes to that. Status of facilities. You can see repairing facilities, untidy classrooms. Drag and drop that here. Inadequate textbooks. Basically, if you look at those 3 codes, they relate to status of facilities at the institution. Let's try and find another theme. If you look at the theme of actually lack of enough ventilation in the classes, That's a status of the facilities. Now that code was asked in the second question. Now this one we have to go change color, put it as red. And then if you look at what we were trying to discuss, there are different challenges or status of the facilities. We also have issues related to management. We can try to assign, if you look at a code like poor communication from the management, poor feedback from lecturers, that's about teaching, lack of working relationship between admin and students, lack of punctuality among lecturers, lack of ventilation, experience insufficient explanation from the lecturers. So I can have a theme called click new group, call this theme 2, experiences of students with teaching strategies. Theme 2, experiences of students with teaching strategies. What are the experiences with teaching strategies? Look at a code like poor feedback from lecturers. Look at a code like use of practical approaches in the classroom. Look at a code like lack of punctuality among the lecturers. Okay? Insufficient explanation from the lecturers. So those codes relate to experiences of students with teaching strategies used in the classroom. Basically, we develop codes. First we familiarize with the transcripts, then we generate initial codes, then we combine codes based on shared meaning to form themes. I'm not saying that for the purposes of this video that my themes are perfect. No, I would do better when I'm doing this, or I have time to do this. I would go read the transcripts, do the coding more deeply, but after that we can always go and revise. That's how we get themes. Now the next step is we go and review and refine these themes. We check the themes to see that they are made up of combined shared meaning. Then we review and revise. That's the fourth step. Basically, that's how we go through the steps of Braun and Clarke, because after we familiarize the data, generate initial codes, combine codes, form themes, review and refine themes, provide the descriptions, then we just go and double click on the data and then try to compile the narrative, which I've showed in my previous videos. But basically this was just a video to just show how we do codes and themes in AtlasTI and how we get to this point. Remember, if you are feeling stuck with your data analysis chapter, don't stress, I'm here to help. I offer done-for-you qualitative data analysis services using AtlasTI. My done-for-you service includes coding, theme development, and visualization. On the other hand, if you prefer to learn and do the analysis yourself, I provide one-on-one AtlasTI consulting, where I'll guide you how to master AtlasTI through step-by-step instruction and perform qualitative data analysis. Reach out right now, check the description for my email and link to my website.